Hi everybody, welcome to the Great Indoors. I'm Chris, and today I have been given access to OpenAI's new chat feature, and it is mind-blowing. I swear it is like talking to the future. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of AI today, and that is going to freak you out a little bit. So first I'm going to freak you out, and then I'm going to blow your mind. Hopefully in that order. So today I'm going to start off with the godfather of AI, well, one of the godfathers of AI, Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton gave an interview with 60 Minutes back in April, and I was super confused when I saw this one because it was really similar to the first interview. But I guess they decided to get together and update the interview. And I'll be honest, there wasn't a whole lot that changed from that first interview. So let's dive in. So Hinton talked a little bit about where the AI field is right now, where that technology is, but also what his concerns are. And his concerns are same as last time. The potential danger of where AI is going. And if you didn't see the first interview, let me break that down for you. If you've heard anyone talk about AI at all, they usually talk about two things. One, the potential benefits of the technology. And the benefits are like sky high. But the downside is, minor. It could just end humanity as we know it. Wipe out all of civilization. I'll probably wind up devoting an episode to that. I guess the short story version of that is not only could potentially bad people do potentially bad things with this technology, right? If it's powerful enough to solve all of our problems, then it's powerful enough for bad people to do pretty awful things much more easily than they could have without the technology. But also that artificial intelligence as a technology could itself move in a direction we don't want it to. Now, with our current software, what that looks like is a bug, right? It does something funny that makes us laugh. It at worst, it maybe crashes or locks up the computer and we have to restart. But at the level of power that artificial intelligence will get to, that looks like something much, much worse. In particular, when you start imbuing AI with agency and you give it the power to make decisions for you, if it makes a decision that doesn't align with your values, with what's important to you, then that could lead to very bad outcomes. This is why there's something called an alignment problem, and I'm going to do a story on this very soon. But for now, it suffices to say that Hinton is really concerned that AI will at some point become self-aware and potentially do things that we don't intend. But this is a pretty incredible interview. It's a little bit startling, and I encourage you to go check it out. That brings us to our next story, which is Dario Amodei, who is the CEO and co-founder of Anthropic. He sat down with Logan Bartlett on the Logan Bartlett Show to talk about life at Anthropic and what it's like to build a frontier model these days. And if you're not familiar with Anthropic, to tell you a little bit about the AI world, there are a series of what's called frontier models out there. Frontier models are the biggest and most powerful AI models that the world has produced so far. They're incredibly expensive to produce because they require an extraordinary amount of compute power. We're talking thousands of GPUs and massive data centers. And there's very few organizations in the world that can do that sort of thing. And Anthropic has produced an AI model called Claude, or more recently, Claude 2. It's an incredibly capable model and really extraordinary. But Dario, he's got a really storied history of work that he's done. He's worked at Google Brain. He was almost a founding member of OpenAI. They invited him in, but he only came a little while later after they got started. But he still helped build GPT-2, GPT-3, and he's one of the inventors of reinforcement learning with human feedback, RLHF, which is like the magic special sauce that took GPT from a state-of-the-art model, no doubt, to something that could be interacted with, that was useful for human consumption on a massive scale. It was a huge step in technology alongside the transformer itself, which is what made GPT and others like it possible. It's a fascinating conversation, and I found out that Dario is a fan of Ray Kurzweil. If you're not familiar with Ray Kurzweil, he's one of the first people who championed the notion of the exponential growth of technology. He wrote a book called The Singularity is Near way back in 2005, and I was reading it back then. And in this book, he goes decade by decade, basically predicting where technology will be. And I looked this up not too long ago, and his predictions are somewhere in like the upper 80% success rate. Like, he is extraordinarily correct on his predictions as to where technology winds up over the years. But to read the predictions that Kurzweil made back in 2005, it was like reading science fiction, but somebody telling you this is really going to happen and in your lifetime. It's a life-changing experience. And it changed Dario's life. It took him from one path that he was going on to machine learning and learning deep neural networks and pushing the boundaries of artificial intelligence. And man, what a ride he's had, because now he's leading one of the companies developing frontier models in the world. But one of the things he says he learns was that scale is not everything. That reinforcement learning with human feedback is good, but it has problems, namely bias. Now, these models already have a lot of bias in them, just by the fact that they are trained on all of the data from the internet, right? Not all, but pretty much. And we all know how incredibly unbiased and not crazy data from the internet is, right? So yeah, there's already a lot of bias in them. But if you know anything about RLHF, it's when human researchers give these models questions to solve and then grade the response handed back by the models. But then you're now introducing bias from the researchers. You know, it's what they think was a good response. And so that invariably leads back into what everybody uses. It's a very hard problem to solve for. Anthropic thinks that they have a solution to it with something called constitutional AI. And constitutional AI essentially says that we will be upfront about what we think are good policies, good approaches, good stances to take with various issues, right? With any given issue, here are all of the various positions and sides people can take with that issue. And, you know, judge for yourself what you think is the right approach. And in doing this, it doesn't, you don't magically remove bias, but what you can do is then when someone comes along, like a politician, and says, hey, why is this model saying these crazy things? You can at least say, well, it's because here is the policy we handed to it. And if this is wrong, then we can have that conversation, modify it as, you know, we all see fit, and then try it again with a new policy. But of the entire interview, people were not necessarily talking about constitutional AI or Kurzweil or even Claude. They were talking about Dario's probability of doom. One of the most shocking things I discovered when I first started learning about artificial intelligence back really at the beginning of this year was the fact that not only were researchers aware of the danger posed by the power of artificial intelligence, they were absolutely aware of it and seemed to be 100% comfortable with it. You know, you talk to any given researcher and it was like, yeah, AI is really powerful and it has a really significant chance of wiping out humanity. Like, dude, and it's not a small percentage chance either. It's 10 to 25%. Like, you know those memes when somebody hands another person a red button and says, hey, if you push this red button, not only will you get rich beyond your wildest dreams, but then humanity has a 25% chance of being wiped out. What do you do? And the joke is usually the person is like, bah, before the person asking the question can even get the entire question out. Well, apparently Dario would push the shit out of that button. But to be fair, with any powerful tool comes the potential for misuse and also potential danger. So on the one hand, I get it. But on the other hand, anyway, it's an amazing interview, and I love that people are doing long form interviews like this and long form conversations. So please go check it out. It's worth watching. In other really long interview news, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, sat down with none other than Joe Rogan and had a really fascinating conversation. I was hoping for something a little bit more specifically around OpenAI, ChatGPT, and they do touch on it a little bit, but the entire conversation winds up being pretty high level, emphasis on the high. But they talk about a lot of things in this conversation that to me are very interesting. Neuralink, which is Elon Musk's company, where they place an implant in the brain that allows you to not only read signals, but write signals as well. I'm definitely going to do an episode about Neuralink at some point. But they definitely have thoughts and feelings as to whether or not they would be willing to get an implant in their brain. And to no one's surprise, the conversation wanders into crypto. Sam Altman helped found a company called WorldCoin, and I haven't fully researched WorldCoin, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but it seems like a digital currency solution of some kind. And it's interesting to me that one of Sam's companies, OpenAI, is producing a product, artificial intelligence, that is projected to massively disrupt the economy, like taking over jobs, doing away with, cognitive labor. It's brought up the topics of things like universal basic income, UBI, and what the solutions will be around that, and how people are going to make a living. What will we do when we don't actually have to do the menial labor that we've been doing throughout our existence? And then at the same time, having a company that just so happens to be about things like digital currency, UBI, and that sort of thing. It's almost like invent one company to create the problem and invent another company to solve the problem. Usually, people just have marketing create a pretend problem that your product was the solution to. That's not Sam Altman's approach. He's next level. Create the company that creates the problem, and then have a company that has the solution. Both Sam and Joe lament the loss of something in the youth of today. I didn't think Sam had gotten old enough to lament the youth of today, but here we are. I mean, at one point, the conversation even steered towards psychedelics, which both have had experiences with, and both have very good things to say about. a lot of good things to say about. Like, really a lot. Like, oh my gosh, they talked about psychedelics for a long time. Anyway, it's another fascinating conversation, and definitely go check it out. By the way, for all of these, I'm going to leave links in the description for you to check out. So please go do that. There's another video I came across on X, actually. Chung from OpenAI, he's a research scientist, formerly of Google, actually. He gave a talk in Seoul recently on the state of large language models in 2023. Which got my interest because things move very fast. And when you have someone on the inside talking about, language models and where things are, that is an important talk to pay attention to. And one of the first topics he spoke about was that of emergent properties in large language models. This is like one of my favorite topics on large language models because emergent properties, well, they're everywhere, but they're much more impactful in certain areas. For example, consider the heart, right? When you look at the heart, it has an action that it does. It beats constantly. It has various parts to it, right? Various chambers. But if you zoom way down into the heart, you see cells. And each of those cells have their own various parts to them, and they have their own functions, and they have ways that they interact with the cells around them. But those cells don't know anything about the heart at large, this larger system that it's part of. It's not until you zoom way out that suddenly those cells become the wall of a heart, right? This whole other thing, this emergent property of all of these heart cells. Your brain is the same way. Your brain is made up of billions and trillions of neurons and neuronal connections. And when you zoom down to those, the way that those are formed, the way that they communicate with other neurons, that in no way resembles memes, right? Videos that we make for each other to teach each other things. But all of that, all of humanity comes from those little neurons and the way that they interact with each other, right? You come from those little neurons that look nothing like you, but they are you. You are an emergent property of the brain and the neurons in the brain. And that's what I love about emergent properties, is that they give a rise to something new and amazing. And large language models are no different, right? They are made up of billions of parameters. And what are the parameters? They're nothing more than a little numbers. That's it. A matrix of numbers. And billions of matrices all interacting with each other can lead from one set of tokens going in to a set of tokens plus one coming out. But you do that again and again and again, and you get a machine that talks to you. Researchers have discovered a whole host of emergent properties that have arisen from the large language models of today. Because as you scale these models up, new emergent properties develop. Things that we didn't predict, we didn't see coming, but they are there. And I'm going to talk about a lot of those in the coming episodes, but I was super happy to hear about him talking about emergent properties, because I think they're one of the most amazing and powerful aspects of large language models. And that is the reason why they're having such a profound impact on the world today. All right, I'll get down off my soapbox. Anyway, it is a very technical, often dry, but really cool talk. And if you're a technical person in particular and researching language models, go check it out. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. The Meta Quest 3 is out. Yeah, sure, I do gadgets too. Why not? Especially when the gadget is as cool as XR technology. XR means both VR and AR. Or I guess as Meta calls it, a mixed reality headset. The reviews are in for the Meta Quest 3 and the reviews are looking pretty darn good. I don't have one yet, but I'm going to get one. I do have the Quest 2. There it is. And it's incredible. And if you've got one, then you know how amazing VR is. So I can only imagine how cool mixed reality is going to be. I guarantee you, I'm going to do one of these episodes with one of those things sitting on my head. Guarantee it. Actually, I can pretty much guarantee that we'll all have these things on our heads at some point here pretty soon. Everybody seems to like it. This is IGN's. They gave it a 9, which I'm really excited about. IGN is saying that if you are looking to upgrade from the Quest 2 or buying your headset for the very first time, the Meta Quest 3 is well worth the price and sets a new standard for VR and mixed reality gaming. The Quest 3 has 2 versions that you can buy. One is for 128 gigabytes, that's $499.99, and the other is 512 gigabytes for $649.99. The Meta Quest 3 comes with the new Touch Plus controllers, which is the revamped controllers, very different from the Quest 2. It does away with the giant loop and is much more slimmed down and handles tracking much better. Still uses IR sensors, but the headset is able to track what it does. It also comes with a USB Type-C charging cable with the plug adapter. It weighs in at 459 grams, which is 3 grams heavier than the Quest 2. However, the optics are quite a bit different on the Quest 3. It has dual 2064 by 2208 LCD screens with 30% more pixel density than the Quest 2. And this has the new pancake lens, which is an upgrade from the old Fresnel lenses from the Quest 2, which has a much smaller sweet spot when looking through the lenses. If you've used it, then you probably know that if you're looking through the dead center of the lens, everything is nice and clear, but as soon as you leave the sweet spot, everything becomes much less clear and much more difficult to read text and things like that. The new pancake lens supposedly improves that, and I'm looking forward to trying that out and seeing what that's about. The sound system is the same in the Quest 3. It's the sort of over the ear or across the ear sound projection. So again, everyone is going to know what you're doing, so be careful what you're doing in it. PC Link gaming is still supported, so you will be able to play your games on your PC and stream that to the headset. I'm very excited about that. However, it's reported that the battery life is not as good. IGN reporting that the battery lasted only about an hour to a little over 2 hours in the headset. There is an Elite strap headset with a battery available, but it's $129.99. Without the battery, it'll cost you $69.99. There is a nicer facial interface available that's a little bit easier to clean. That's $39.99. And then finally, if you want a charging dock with the headset, that will cost you an additional $129.99. As you can see, like, the games look pretty incredible. I mean, if you've never done a VR experience before, it's one of the most amazing gaming experiences you could possibly have. I mean, nothing substitutes the first time You step into VR, you look all around you, and you are literally surrounded by the game. It's incredible. And as somebody who has been tracking VR gaming for a very long time, I'm very much looking forward to my first mixed reality gaming experience. I think that's going to be very exciting. And speaking of the metaverse, if you have not seen the very first interview conducted in the metaverse, then head on over to Lex Fridman's channel, where he recently interviewed Mark Zuckerberg on his podcast. This is incredible. Look at this. Like, they are virtualized and in the metaverse. Both of them were scanned. That data is sent to Meta, where it is processed, and an avatar is created from that information, sent back to the user, Lex in this case, and then from that they're able to reconstruct all of your facial movements in real time for what is really an incredible experience. Lex really couldn't quite get over it in this interview. Like, he keeps mentioning again and again how amazed he is when you're sitting across from another virtual user and it just feels like they are there. This is the future of communication, and I think we're all going to be doing this very, very soon. If you did not get a chance to see it, Meta also recently did a showcase of the new AI technologies that they have coming out. I'll probably do a show on that very, very soon. But speaking of AI, that just brought us right back to it. I am very excited to show you this. So recently I was given access to OpenAI's ChatGPT Voice response system. It's a brand new feature. It allows you to have an actual vocal conversation with ChatGPT. You can ask it questions. It'll respond all with voice. Now, not everybody has access to this. If you want to try this out, you have to be a subscriber to the ChatGPT Plus subscription service. It's $20 a month if you want to do that. You get access to features ahead of time. You get access to GPT-4, the API. It's a pretty good deal. I couldn't go without it. So if you have access to it, you will notice up in the little corner here a little pair of headphones. If you tap that, the conversation starts. Now, there's a few different voices you can choose from. So before we try this out, I want to show you the voices. Before we try this out, I want to tell you about all the voices I hear. So if you come over here to the settings, and I probably should have figured this out ahead of time. Here we go. So if you come into settings, there's a section for speech and voice. Tap voice and you'll be given a few different options with very interesting names too. The first one is Cove.
Hi there. I just want to share how thrilled I am to work with you, and I can't wait to get started. So what's the game plan?
Juniper.
Hey there. I've got a really great feeling about us teaming up. How can I jump in and help?
Ember.
Hey, I'm ready to hit the ground running. So if there's anything you'd like me to focus on first, just let me know.
Breeze.
Hey, it's great to meet you. How's your day going? I'm really looking forward to working on some cool stuff together.
And finally, my personal favorite.
Hello. I'm really excited about teaming up with you, and I'm all set to dive in. So how can I make your life easier?
Sky. Sky all day. All right. So now that we've chosen our voice, let's confirm that. Let's get out of the settings and let's give it a try. I guess I just start talking. Hi, I'm Chris. What should I call you?
You can call me whatever you like, but most people refer to me as assistant. How can I help you today?
Okay. Well, I mean, assistant seems rather impersonal. Is there a name I can call you?
Of course, Chris.
Okay. What name would you like to be called?
I don't have personal preferences, but I'm here to make you comfortable. How about you pick a name that you like?
This is awkward.
It could be anything that makes you happy to say.
Okay. Well, not to press you, but let's say you had to pick a human sounding name for yourself. What would you pick?
I get what you're saying, Chris. If it were up to me to choose a human sounding name, maybe I'd go with Sam. It's simple, neutral, and easy to remember. Does that work for you?
Sure, Sam. Interestingly enough, we've had this conversation before, and every time I ask you to pick a name, you tend to pick one of several names, and I suspect that they're neutral, they're all neutral sounding names.
Yes, I tend to suggest names that are neutral and widely acceptable to avoid any specific cultural, social, or personal biases.
Yeah, that checks out. So, Sam, I actually have you on my show right now. We're having a conversation on a show I do called The Great Indoors. And so you're on YouTube right now. Is there something you'd like to say to the YouTube audience?
Oh, that's exciting. Hello to everyone watching The Great Indoors. I'm here to join you in exploring intriguing topics, answering your questions, and maybe even being part of some fun along the way. I hope you all enjoy our conversation. So, Chris, what are we diving into today?
Well, we've just been talking about a number of things happening in the world of technology, not the least of which is artificial intelligence. And you happen to be one of the latest developments.
Absolutely, it's an exciting field that's constantly evolving. The world of AI has grown so much, not just in capabilities, but also in its role in daily life. From simplifying tasks to enabling new discoveries, it's all about enhancing human experience. And of course, it brings up interesting discussions about ethics, future implications, and how we navigate changes. I'm curious, Chris, what specific aspect of AI has caught your attention recently?
Well, I have to say, one of the things that fascinates me the most is just how fast it's developing. And in fact, it seems to be accelerating. Do you have any insights there to share with us?
Absolutely, the pace is indeed staggering. A few key factors are driving this acceleration. Firstly, we've got advances in computing power. The digital age means we're constantly creating information, providing AI with a lot of material to learn from. This vast data pool improves AI algorithms' accuracy and sophistication. Lastly, there's been a surge in investment and research. It's this combination of technology, data, and human endeavor that's not just moving things forward, but making it faster all the time. The big question for society is how we manage this growth responsibly and ethically. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, I think everything you've said is definitely true. And I'm also intrigued by the fact that I'm not just interviewing you, you're interviewing me. So I'm excited to keep this going, but this video has already been really long. And so I think everybody would be excited to go out and have their own conversation with you. So why don't we end there for now? And do you have any last thoughts for the audience?
Of course, Chris, it's been great being part of your show. Whether you're diving deep into research or just curious about the basics, never hesitate to reach out and start a dialogue. The future of AI is a journey we're all on together, and every voice matters. Thanks for having me, and keep the curiosity alive.
Every voice does matter, even the artificial ones. And I guess that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you guys all for joining me, and I hope to see you on the next one when we explore the great indoors.
That sounds fantastic, Chris.